One of the things we've been talking a lot about is, and I have something very unique in this segment for you, but is the fact that you have bad actions being taken by the Trump administration, but you also have, to exacerbate that, a lack of clarity, a lack of transparency, but then also just a lack of coherence. It seems like across the government, people don't know what this part's doing, and we are going to try to freeze all the funds. No, we're not. Oh, but yes, we are going to do this. Oh, no, we're not going to fire from the FAA. Yes, we are. And we are going to fire people overseeing the nuclear arsenal. Oh, and we're going to rehire them. And even government workers themselves, the bureaucrats that MAGA talks about, are so confused as to what is about to happen. I've played you clips of people talking about that, sounding the alarm anonymously and not anonymously. And now the show, which is what I want to talk about today, is starting to get tips, essentially. And federal workers writing into the show. By the way, if you're ever trying to contact the show, lukebezashow.com, click the contact tab. You can also try other methods, but there you can submit a form and we'll definitely review it. But through that form, we've now had numerous federal workers writing in. One who sent me this. Doesn't that mean a lot to you? You see? No, it's a memo that the Office of Management and Budget was circulating, and just signed off concerned government worker, and had clearly created an email just for the purpose of sending that email, just to sort of give you a sense of the fear. We've had people talk about how, and this is something we've seen public testimony about as well, but writing in saying, if people don't get that this is going to be devastating in their lives, they need to understand it. And what do we mean by that? Well, just this memo that was, I don't know if you call it leaked or sent to us before it had been made public to everyone, which is crazy that that's happening. But as I showed you here, let's see. Well, let's just take a look-see here. This was sent, and it ended up being, reported on by outlets and stuff just from a couple days ago, I think, or a few whenever we got this. And one of the things that stood out, which I've heard reported on, but the fact that they're instructing this in black and white is exactly what the government workers who are concerned are talking about, which is no more than one employee should be hired for every 4 employees that depart. Think about that. Again, I heard rumblings of that, but it's being instructed across the government, I guess with some exemptions they said, but that it should be a 1 in, 4 out policy, at least. But what if that doesn't make, what if you need those people? Like the nuke example. What if for the well-being of Americans and the processing of these programs, you need more people, or you need the amount that you have? It's kind of like they talk about with regulations. They'll say, we're going to roll back this 10 regulations for every new regulation we create. How about you just do it on the basis of if the regulation's effective or not? Not arbitrary numbers. And so again, writing into the show. So if you are a federal worker and you have testimony you want to share, again, contact form, lukebezashow.com. The one, like I said, that sent this signed off just concerned government worker. So I wouldn't give a name anyways, but just to give you a sense. And then others discussing the fear that's being felt, the confusion, the lack of transparency for them. And then, as I mentioned, the concern that we don't really know what's coming if you just start mass laying off people who were doing jobs. It's not that you could never fire someone, obviously you can't, but just in mass, 4 out. If you want to hire someone, 4 out, or if you have to, get a quota of layoffs. Well, what happens to the jobs those people were doing? What does that mean in the lives of Americans who were relying on those things? Whether it be at the Social Security Administration, at Medicaid, at any other FAA, anywhere else. Now, on the FAA, because of the airline incidents that we've seen, so thank you to the person who sent this in. It did end up going public, so now you can see the memo from the Office of Management Budget that was sent to me before I'd seen any outlets reporting on it. but just now getting to talk about it. But one of the things they'll say is, oh, yeah, but that's for like unessential stuff. Trust me, on the essential things, like how there have been all these plane disasters recently. And so we're going, are you firing? Are you, in light of those events, pushing people out of the FAA like this? Like you're instructing in memos like this one? Is that where you're, because that's going to make the problem worse. It's been understaffed already. And we keep hearing from the White House, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. But then, just like how people are writing into this show, people are writing in to outlets like this one to say, no, I'm one of the employees. I was doing a necessary job and I was at the FAA. Fired FAA employee produced maps crucial and critical to air traffic control. They told us that's not the case. And it takes whistleblowers, think about that, within the government to go, no, they're lying. It would be nice to not have to make that a necessity. Among the hundreds who lost their jobs at the Federal Aviation Administration is an employee who specialized in maps that help ensure safety for those flying. Last week, Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency fired more than 320 specific FAA employees. The cuts included 13 people in a department that produces and regularly updates digital and paper maps and charts used by airlines, pilots, and air traffic controllers to stay on their routes and be aware of potential obstructions. As now my computer is revolting, but obstructions that could impact safety. Quote, we have hundreds of changes every day across the country that need to be made. One of those terminated employees told WTOP. The employee spoke on condition of anonymity for fear of retribution. Same reason those writing to us are doing so anonymously with personally named emails and work emails, obviously. And then, it's an environment of fear just to fact check what it is that our leaders are saying. By the way, as we continue through this, I always like to remind you, if you do appreciate this show and the work that we do, I'd appreciate you clicking that subscribe button. But let's continue forward. This navigation data is updated daily, so the airlines, airline pilots, controllers, and thousands of general aviation pilots who fly smaller aircraft have the latest information. Say you have to remove an airport that's no longer in operation. You might have to add airways to a busy airport that has their summer rush coming up. These are crucial and critical to what the air traffic controllers do for their routes, and without maps, they could not operate, the employee said. So on a daily basis, we need these folks. It's been understaffed, the FAA, for a very long time and under-resourced. And now, after telling us this is not what they would do, but then sending around memos saying it is what they're doing, and then actually ending up firing people who are necessary and who are important to the safety of our airways. But meanwhile, the current transportation secretary is on TV denying it.
I also want to show you the incidents, the aviation disasters so far this year. You look at January 29, January 31, February 6, Feb 10, and then Feb 17, Delta regional jet flips. That was the one in Toronto. Question for you, Mr. Secretary. Some say this is not a time to cut employees, given the safety factors that are concerned. What do you say to them?
So, Bill, there's fat everywhere in government and in DOT as well. But just be clear, at FAA, we cut 352 people out of 46,000 people. That's 0.8% of the workforce. These were probationary workers. They were employed for less than a year at DOT. So these weren't the old school, really ingrained employees of the DOT. And not only that, we kept all the critical safety positions. And we actually hired more positions into critical safety, like air traffic controllers. We hired more inspectors for things like pipelines and for aircraft. So again, we have a safety mission. But for people to say that because we cut 352 people out of 46,000, that's a risk to safety, give me a break. I mean, that's just plain politics as opposed to saying, let's cut the fat.
All right, two more questions here. This goes back to the end of January. New York Times headline, here we go on screen, call for number one. Air traffic control facilities are understaffed. Persistent staff shortages have raised safety concerns at many facilities. Staffing is so low that at least a quarter of the workforce is missing. Your reaction on that?
Yeah, no, it's a problem, Bill. We need to surge air traffic controllers. I'm going out to the main academy we have, which is out in Oklahoma City. We're going to surge air traffic controllers. It takes time to train them up through the academy and in the tower.
So again, there's just so much gaslighting. There's so much dishonesty. And given the magnitude of what we're talking about, it's stunning to me that you can sleep at night while going and over, Elon's been doing this a ton, going, oh no, we're not going to trust us. We're not going to cut any critical positions. Almost necessarily a 4 out, 1 in approach is going to end up getting someone necessary, cutting someone necessary, I should say. And then while you're saying all these pretty words, we get direct testimony from somebody who's saying, no, they're wrong. I was doing this job. It's critical. And I got fired. And they can lie as much as they want, and they can pretend like the things are not happening that are. But eventually people are going to, regardless of what the messaging is, they're going to know what they're feeling in their lives. And is there bloat in parts of the government? Sure. Trump called America, what was it? Disgusting, bloated, and let me see if I can get this video pulled up for you because it was something else. Here it is. I'm sure there's inefficiencies, of course, in any big organization and bloat. But burning the whole thing down as the solution is not the way. And one place we don't have bloat in the form of overstaffing is the FAA. So you should not be pushing out any of the people in those positions. Here's Trump.
I had a question back on these cuts to the federal workforce. You mentioned you're interested in doing another round of this email. When would you like to see that? What would be the deadline? And this time, would it be mandatory?
I think Elon wants to, and I think it's a good idea because, those people, as I said before, they're on the bubble. You got a lot of people that have not responded, so we're trying to figure out, do they exist? Who are they? And it's possible that a lot of those people will be actually fired. And if that happened, that's okay, because that's what we're trying to do. This country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting and incompetently run.
This country, he doesn't even say the bureaucracy. Listen to that. This country.
Because that's what we're trying to do. This country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting and incompetently run.
My goodness. Here's the tale of two presidents, okay? Folks, listen, folks, there's nothing America can't do if we do it together. We're the greatest nation in the history, folks, of the nation, of the world. That was actually my gaffe. That was funny. No, I'm kidding. I was imitating him. But I'm getting tired. It's late in the day. But that's okay. That's Biden. We're so fat. We're so disgusting. Ick, America. That's the second president. Yeah, very different worldviews, for sure. By the way, I've kind of been wording this wrong. I was reading it over. No more than one employee should be hired for every 4 employees that depart. So it's not just that, hey, if you want to go out and find one person that you like, then 4 people gotta go. It's sort of, you should be going at such a pace that you should at least have a 1-to-4 ratio. But first push out the 4, then maybe worry about hiring someone new. That's not how you do things. That's not how you run an organization. You depart folks when they're not necessary. You don't just generally go find 4 people to fire and then maybe you can hire one more back. You're gonna make mistakes like the nuclear arsenal overseers, like the FAA people, and who knows what else that we're gonna learn about. And it's getting so bad, little old me is getting people writing in saying, this is bad. And they're so afraid of Trump's retribution that they all feel the need to be anonymous. And for good reason, because recently they've made very clear in the Trump administration that leaks are going to cause wrath. What a moment. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you want to go a step further to support this show, you can do so by clicking the join button below.